think so. I've never used a microphone before. It's weird.
You're doing okay.
Microphone.
You're born to use the microphone. Oh, full stop. Okay, ready? Go.
Okay, this first slide is a bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to talk all about DNA, but I'm not an expert. It's just something that I read about, and it blew my mind. So this dog, that's pretty much what I looked like when I first read this stuff. There'll be a moment at the end, if anybody here knows more about DNA than I do, which is probably likely, there'll be a moment at the end to bring that up. So in 1953, that's when the double helix shape of DNA was first discovered, Watson Crick, and Rosalind Franklin. Oh, moving on, this is how DNA works. So in the body there are trillions of cells. Each cell has 46 chromosomes, and each chromosome has one molecule of DNA in it. One molecule of DNA is 2.5 meters long. So all of the DNA in your body, if you stretched it out and put it together, would reach from the Earth to the Moon 260,000 times. Here's a cell. DNA works like this. It's a line of pairs. And these pairs of the code, this is going really fast. Basically it works, the code is that there are pairs. Each piece of DNA has 247 million pairs, which are the instructions for how to make a person. So each cell in your body has 6 million of those pairs that are a code. We're 50% genetically identical to a banana. And 70% genetically identical to a slug, so just little changes in the DNA could make a big difference. 30% different, we could be a slug. They've discovered that we are 99.4% identical genetically to a chimpanzee, which means theoretically we could have offspring. With a chimpanzee, it would be called a human Z. We need to decide which of these represents the human Z. I definitely can't explain this in 15 seconds. There are genes, which are sections of the DNA, which each contain a little instruction for how to make a person, but some are more important than others. So some of those genes have an explanation of how to make a bit of a body, and some of those genes are the instruction to make that bit. So they put an instruction from a mouse that said how to make an eye, and the fly made an eye, and so there are the instructions in a chicken to make teeth, as long as you have that top gene that says make some teeth. Some species have DNA that doesn't really degrade if we age. That's because our DNA is wearing out and not being as good as it was when we were young. This tortoise lived to 255 years old. This is a chimera. If there are twins in the womb and they kind of absorb into one another, you can end up with an animal or a person that has two different types of DNA in them. Resulting in something like this. It's basically its own twin. So researching DNA and using that information is a bit of a minefield. Some people might have negative thoughts about that. Some people are worried about genetically modified food, and that it might cause illness in people. And some people think that maybe looking at DNA is going to lead to people playing God, resulting in creatures like this. I'm stuck with this and it can be used irresponsibly. The knowledge of DNA at Monsanto, all around bad eggs. I just let me look at a cartoon and get my breath back. But use of DNA can lead to greater knowledge. So we've discovered, probably, that the Vikings made it to America a long time before Christopher Columbus and bred with Native Americans, and we can look at modern Icelandic people now and find that DNA. This was due to be on sale for in 2013. It's the first gene therapy that's available to the public. So an injection of this will alter someone's DNA who has a fault in their DNA, and it's the most expensive drug available. It's £1.6 million per person. And we might come up with some cures or better ways of dealing with cancer, better ways of treating specific cancers by mapping cancer genomes. And reading all of this about DNA, it did fry my tiny mind a little bit. It made me feel a bit that vertiginous feeling when you look into space and think about how big the world is. This is tiny, but in its tiny scale it's just as trippy. And I leveled that out by thinking about the fact that a lot of that DNA that's packed into our bodies is just junk DNA that our body never uses. So we have instructions in there for making a tail that we don't actually use. And this is 15 seconds for people to tell me what I got wrong. It's all right then.
Well done.